This is Stan J. Caterbone at Advanced Media Group. It's now 7:27 a.m. on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. By the way, it's the day to vote nationally and locally. Since my visit to Lancaster to the Community First Credit Union on Duke Street yesterday to deposit my PayPal check for $400 and some dollars, I need to clarify some things regarding Advanced Media Group, the High Group, and things like that. First off, when I got there, I gave the woman the check and I said, I have documentation. So I went to my knapsack for the binder that I had prepared with the documents containing the articles of incorporation and the fictitious name registration. Well, they were gone, missing. Now, when I got there, I was ambushed by 4 or 5 people. There were these 2 guys there waiting for me. Now, I gave the guy my card. I said what they did, and they were patronizing me, harassing me. I mean, it was unbelievable. So he gave me his card. He said he was a compliance officer. I think they were cops. Anyway, the girl sitting at the desk was a new girl. I didn't recognize her. So I asked her if she could take the documents off of my thumb drive. She said they couldn't. So I said, okay, I'll be back. I said, I'll go get them printed at the library. Now, I had to do other things that day. I had an Amazon return that needed to go to the UPS drop box down there on Queen Street at the Wells Fargo branch. And I also had to get some medical marijuana. I haven't gotten medical marijuana since August 30th, and that was 3.5 grams. So I left. I said, I'll be back. Now, I rode my scooter from Fremont Street all the way to Community First Fund. I didn't take a bus. I was harassed and followed the whole way. People walking in front of me downtown, things like that. I was being harassed like you can't believe. So I went to the medical marijuana dispensary on Chester Street, and I go in the handicap ramp, which is another door. Well, the girl came out and said, you know what? She goes, it's an hour wait inside the building. I said, an hour wait? I said, I'll come back later. She goes, well, we should have another staffer on duty then. So I left there. Then I went to the library, got my documents printed off my thumb drive. Now, I should mention, I put my scooter up to the front door to leave, opened the door, and who pulls up? Brunilda Ramirez, and she sits in her car. So I had to leave the house with her sitting out there stalking me. Now, Ashley did it the day before, and I never left the house for that reason. So I went to the Lancaster County Public Library, used a visitor pass, and printed the documents. Then I went back to Community First Fund branch on Duke Street. Gave her the documents, and she goes, I need the articles of incorporation. Now, Tim Lanza, the Lancaster attorney, who used to come to Marion Street, who I met through Kevin Hobday, whose father was a big wig, a big executive at Armstrong. Now, Tim Lanza's father, back in 1987, had arrangements with me to charter my plane. He said Armstrong's plane was always too busy. So anyway, Tim did all the corporation documents for me back in 1991. So I said, okay, I'll get the documents and I'll be back. Now, I told the people when I was there, I said, listen, I did work all over the world regarding information technologies. They kind of laughed at me. So I produced a document which proves that out. I did do work all over the world. It's a fact. You can read the documents, the letters. Now, pertaining to Advanced Media Group and American Helix, I'm going to give you the history from my words, my mouth, to your ears. Now, back in 1988-89, me and Jim Cross and Lynn Cross formed a company called Radio Science Laboratories. We were building a manufacturing facility to develop low-noise amplifiers for microwaves. Jim Cross did a lot of work in this area. He was former Navy. Anyway, Jim Cross and Lynn leased a property down on Christian Street, down near Liberty Street. In fact, it was owned by Danny Hershey. Anyway, I'm sitting in there and we were trying to get financing. I did a business plan. You're free to go look at it. It's up on my Google Cloud and other. It's filed. I mean, in 081337 as exhibit. I was sitting in the office one day and Scott Robertson comes in. And he asked me to come and look at the building. They were building American Helix. So we wrote out, it was cinder blocks. Brand new building. Scott ended up asking me to come on board with them and offered me cash. Now, the first project I had was to develop and write the business plan for the CD-ROM division of American Helix. Now, I did that and troubleshot the network. It was a Novell network. I built a Novell network for Financial Management Group a few years before that. Now, they paid me $1,000 per week for 53 weeks. I have the tax returns. Every week, Dave Deering would go over to High Corporate Office and get me a check for $1,000. I did it as an independent contractor. Dave Deering, Scott Robertson, and Jim Boyer formed American Helix. Now, they didn't have a bank account. Dale High was their bank. Dale High financed them. Now, here's how American Helix came to be. In 1987, after they extorted my company, Financial Management Group, Scott Robertson was working with Dave Deering. Dave Deering had financing from someone that owned a radio station. I don't know if it was local. Anyway, it fell through. So somehow Dave Deering contacted Scott Robertson. Now, Jim Boyer was from Lebanon. Jim Boyer was a sound engineer for Billy Joel. Anyway, so Scott went and got the financing from Dale High. So technically speaking, American Helix was mine. It was born out of the company that was extorted from me. Me, Scott, and Danny were doing all these joint ventures projects. I had the capabilities to finance a project commercially as far as a mortgage from $3 to $100 million. And I was bidding on projects all over the country. That's a fact. I have the paperwork to prove it out. So anyway, in 1991, I never incorporated Advanced Media Group. I was using it, but I didn't incorporate it back then because all the problems what they did to me, the SEC and everybody else in 1987 with Financial Management Group. So I held off. So finally, I hired Tim Lanza to do the Articles of Incorporation, which he did, and I have them. Now, at American Helix, we were developing a desktop publishing system called LaserTex. It was going to be used to write CD-ROMs. CD-ROM was new. It was a new technology, brand new, developed by Sony and Philips DuPont. I did work for both of those people. I sold them CD diagnostics. I also have a $2,000 order from Microsoft for CD diagnostics, which I was the sole owner. I owned it with the author Tom Brown from Boston. I was exclusive. No one could sell it but me. I sold it all over the world. That's a fact. Anyway, we were developing this desktop publishing system, and we were going to sell it for $60,000 for one person to use it. $60,000. Now back then, a hard drive of 650 megabytes, enough for one CD-ROM, cost $5,000. Just to give you an indication of the history of the technology. Anyway, the joint venture partner was Tom Breland of Network Solution Technologies down in Fairfax, Virginia. Anyway, it came to be that I sensed that he was never going to have the software developed. He couldn't finish it. He didn't have enough of code writers that were able to keep up with the software. So Alan Lefevre was Dale High's guy who managed all the subsidiary companies that Dale High owned, the High Group owned. They had High Foods, High Hotels, they had a cable company early on. Anyway, I told Alan, I said, Alan, I don't think it's ever going to work. He kind of didn't believe me. Well, lo and behold, it blew up. It never worked. So they scapegoated Scott, since it was his baby. Now I focused on publishing CD-ROMs, and I got replication business. Scott put all his time and money in Lasertech. So they scapegoated Scott, and they fired Scott. During that time, I was selected for People to People for the optical publishing conference in Moscow and Budapest. I was selected, I was the only one selected to represent the United States to teach those people in Russia, Czechoslovakia, and places like that optical publishing. That's a fact. It was in the New Era. I put a press release out, and it was published in the Business Digest for the Lancaster newspapers. This is all sourced with authentic documentation. Anyway, I couldn't raise the $5,000. People to People, it was started by Dwight D. Eisenhower. It's to teach people around the world other disciplines, to have conferences. Anyway, you had to pay your own hotel and airfare. I couldn't raise the money, so I never went. Now, in 2005, I was selected by the Clinton Foundation to attend his conference in 2005. Sourced. I believe it was the first year for the conference for the Clinton Foundation. Anyway, this is a video regarding myself and Advanced Media Group Limited and the corporation for Community First Fund and the compliance officer, I forget his name offhand, that I met with yesterday. It's now 7:43 a.m., Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. I'm at my home office, kitchen, at 1250 Fremont Street, Lancaster, Pennsylvania.